Welcome back. My name is Teresa and I'm very much alive. That was the chair. That wasn't me farting. I have an awful, garbage, filthy mouth where sometimes, just sometimes, I tend to use the word fuck as a comma. I know, it's disgusting. I should be stopped.
So unladylike.
If you're not into that or weird stuff in general, then this is definitely not the place for you. Feel free to X out the video here. No harm, no foul. But I will remember our time fondly. Hello, my little ho-hos. We're gonna be talking about some luxury holiday makeup releases. Listen, I have been quietly hoarding this makeup for quite some time now, and because my job sucks the life out of me, I haven't been able to make a review on any of these products. I figured, you know what? These have already kind of been out there. A lot of people have already made their videos, and I'm pretty sure you kind of have ideas. So I'm not really sure if anyone really cares about this stuff at this point, because I know how YouTube works, especially the beauty YouTube community, and nobody cares after literally like the first week. Everybody's just waiting for the next big thing, and it is what it is. However, I have been hit up multiple times from people that are like, hey, did you get this? What do you think? What are your thoughts? Do you love it? Do you hate it? So this video is for the 6 people that have been asking me about these products. And yeah, honestly, I have some thoughts about these, and you know, we're gonna call this, let's talk about some slightly disappointing holiday releases that will hopefully save you some money, because I will explain why you don't need them. Sound good? All right, the first product we're gonna talk about is from Pat McGrath. Ooh, and this is the Celestial Divinity, Celestial, I wanna call it Mama Celeste pizza. Reminds me of my childhood and how sad it was. So Mama Celestial Divinity Pizza palette. This palette retails for $78, and in theory, it sounds like a really good value considering most of their palettes retail around $125. Now, I picked this up because technically I didn't own the 2 palettes that are within this palette, and the 2 palettes that I'm referring to are the Star Wars palettes that came out, I think at the end of last year, that apparently was a major fucking shitstorm. There was a lot of issues that went around that release. So with that said, this holiday palette is technically really only 6 new shades. And that's only if you purchase the 2 Star Wars palettes that are within this palette. So if you have them, essentially it's $78 for 6 new fucking shades, which is fucking ludicrous. Don't get me started. So for $78, you're getting 18 shades in primarily 2 finishes. The first one being matte, which there are 3 matte shades, and the remaining 15 shades are either shimmer, metallic, or duochrome finish. The palette's packaging is a choice. You get a full-size mirror, and the overall feel doesn't feel flimsy or cheap. It's weighted. Yes, it's a step down from previous packaging from this brand, but honestly, I don't mind the packaging so much. However, there's a big motherfucking sticker on the front of the palette. And when mine came in, it was actually slightly turned up. That's worth $80. As for the shades in the palette, there are 3 matte shades. 2 out of the 3 mattes were good. I have no complaints about them. The one matte that sucked ass was this one up here, which I believe is called Major Mahogany. Major Mahogany is one of those shades that is very difficult to blend out. So depending on where you put it, I think if you leave it out in the outer corner and you just like pack it on, it's fine. But if you start to blend it out in any way, no matter what you do, you will always have like this deep line that just will not move. And I hate when eyeshadows do that. If I pack it out just on the outer corner, the longevity is fucking awful. By hour 4, it starts to balls really fucking badly. And honestly, that was very surprising for this brand because I don't think I've ever experienced that issue. I don't think so. So I was like, oh, what the fuck is this shit? For $78, that shit better stay on there till fucking next week. Unfortunately, I wish I could say that was an isolated incident, but every time I use that shade, it just starts to lift. I don't know why. I use it with different bases. It still has the same fucking lifting issue. The shimmer shades in this palette was fine with the exception of one duochrome shade, and that is the shade Electron, which is the one over here. When I was applying the product at first, it wasn't sticking down to any base. It was very, very weird. So I had to keep applying that shade a lot just to get a decent opacity. And then when I started to blend around it, I don't think my brush was really hitting too much into the product, but then all of a sudden glitter just started fucking flying everywhere. And it was just glitter bukkake raining all over my face. Which again, it's very fucking unusual for this brand because I feel like other than one time I had like an issue with one of the special shades because like the glitter irritated my eyes, I've never had that experience. It was really, really weird. One once I kind of blended what I needed to blend, I would have to keep kind of going back in and packing the shade on, and it would kind of start to disappear. I don't know, it was just a really fucking finicky shade, which was super annoying because it's a very beautiful shade, but it's fucking finicky. Other than those two issues, this is a pretty solid palette. I feel like this palette is just geared to two types of people. The people that were pissed off at the initial launch from Star Wars and that couldn't get it, or the people that are interested in this brand but just do not want to commit to a $125 palette. For the latter, $78 sounds like a great fucking price for the amount of shades that you're getting from a brand that usually charges what a kidney goes for on the dark web. It sounds good, right? Kind of not really. I think what makes the brand unique is these special shades. And I believe for almost $80 for a bunch of shimmer shades where, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm getting the same look every fucking time I use this palette. I don't think it's worth it. The variety of looks alone, I don't know, everything kind of just feels and looks the same. For today's look, I have two different looks on, but they look almost fucking identical. I didn't even use the same colors. I don't know what happened. Don't get me wrong, the quality of this palette is fine with the exception of the two shades that I had issues with. Is this the best Pat McGrath palette? Absolutely not. It's not terrible by any means, but it's also not exciting either. No lie, this palette's fucking boring, which is so weird and unusual for the brand because I feel like most of the time this brand comes out with really exciting shit, but this is just fucking all over the place. I think when I saw it online, I was like, ooh, bitch, all right. And then when I got it in my hand, it just felt, I don't know, somewhat disjointed. I feel like I got motherfucking catfish, bent up sticker and all. If you were interested in trying this brand, which I highly recommend because I think this brand is very special, I don't think you should waste your time with a palette like this. Don't let this be your first purchase from this brand. I think the larger mothership palettes are far more exciting and you get to try the special formulas that make those palettes so special. Don't waste your time or money on something that seems good for the price. Even with the Sephora Rouge sale being just around the corner, I don't think this is even worth 10, 15, or 20% off. It's just not. The next product I want to talk about is from Hourglass, and this is the Ambient Lighting Edit Sculpture. I don't even know, was it number 4? I think this is number 4. This is the standard holiday palette that Hourglass releases year after year. It retails for $80 and you get 6 pans. If you always wanted to try Hourglass, I always feel like these are a nice thing to get because their minis, I believe, retail for about $24. So if you got 6 minis, you're spending about like $144. So this is actually a pretty good retail value if you think of it that way. Now, with that said, 3 of these shades in this palette are existing shades and 3 of them are new shades that you can only find within this palette. The 3 existing shades are Dim Light, Diffuse Light, and Mood Exposure. The 3 new shades are Glistening Strobe Light, Natural Bronze Light, and Vibrant Flush. So we're gonna break it down shade by shade. Dim Light is a shade that is often used in pretty much majority of the palettes, and it's a really good finishing powder. It's a pretty beige powder that blurs the skin, blurs imperfections. It's a beautiful powder. This powder is very soft. It can be easily applied, but for me, because it's a little bit on the darker side, I have to go in with a light hand. Otherwise, I kind of have a cast on my face and it makes my skin tone appear darker. And I feel like you don't know why it looks darker. It's not like because I was out in the sun. It's just I look off.
Like, I know you did something different, but I can't put my finger on it, so I'm just gonna say I like your outfit.
We've all done that before. The next shade in this palette is Diffuse Light, which I think is actually my favorite Hourglass powder of all time. I love this shade so fucking much. Now, this powder also blurs your imperfections and basically catfishes you to look like a better you, but it also brings a beautiful luminosity to the face. Now, I love this powder purely for setting it under my under eyes because it doesn't settle into my fine lines. It actually blurs my fine lines, and I find that it actually brightens this under eye area. So it just kind of gives a lot of focus to the center of my face as opposed to my double chin, which we all love. The next shade is Glistening Strobe Light shade. Meh. I feel like for a highlighter, it's okay. This highlighter is a peach color and it's actually just like a hair too dark for me. Color aside, it's still not my favorite formula from Hourglass. Hourglass makes this really beautiful, like metallic, slutty highlighter that I highly recommend. They came out with this trio palette a couple years ago and then they re-released it this year, or was it last year? I forget. They re-released it though, and I believe it's still available. If you see this, it's totally worth the fucking money. Get that one. That's a beautiful highlighter trio. Now, the next shade in this palette is the bronzer, which is Natural Bronze Light. I don't like Hourglass's bronzers because I feel like they're just too warm on my skin. Kind of has like this orangey reddish undertone that I feel like just makes my skin look a little yellow. There is a lot of pigmentation for this bronzer, so a little bit does go a long way. I just don't like how it looks on my skin. It just looks, I don't know, like muddy. It just looks a little bit too dark on my skin. The next shade in this palette is Vibrant Flush. It's a beautiful bright coral shade. For today's look, I actually combined both of the blushes and I fucking love it. And if you're familiar with Hourglass's formula, especially for blushes, this is pretty much falls in the same line of it. It's just beautiful. They're expensive, but they're worth the money. And then the last shade is Mood Exposure, which I think out of this whole palette, between the Diffuse Light shade, this is probably my favorite thing in the whole palette because Mood Exposure, normally I would never pick it up, but it's so fucking beautiful. It's this really, really pretty mauve shade. I always assumed that it was going to be too dark, but this is the kind of blush that, you know, requires you to kind of build it up to get like a higher opacity. It has such a light wash of color that it's just looks like somebody pinched your cheeks so perfectly. I don't know, it's just really, really beautiful. So initially I was a little scared to reach for it, but when I realized that if you want to have a rich color, you have to keep building it up, I was like, okay, I'm okay with this because I like kind of lightly putting it on. I feel like mixing it actually between these two, it's just, I don't know, I look alive today, and we all love that for me. Okay, so is this worth it? I don't think so. I don't think it is. I think out of all the sculpture palettes that have been released throughout the years, probably my least favorite out of all of them. There's really nothing exciting about this palette, and it's kind of a letdown because I feel like from the last few palettes that have been released, I believe this is the 4th iteration of these sculpture palettes. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe this is the 4th version of this palette. There are slight differences between each year that you're like, do I really fucking need this? I already have the one from last year or the year before. And their powders, I know it's like a 12-month expiration, but these powders, if treated properly, you can get a lot of use out of them. There's not really much of a difference from the last few years. Now I loved the idea of the smaller palettes, and I'm so pissed at myself for not actually picking up the little blush quad from last year. I really wish I did. And I was really hopeful that they were going to release something like that again for this year. And they did, but they did it differently. Instead of it just being like a blush quad to go along with this palette, instead they basically released the palette that came out 2 years ago and last year, and they were like, fuck it, we're just gonna do like a best of. It's like Hourglass, you're drunk, give me your keys. Now, if you missed out on that original palette, which to me is, I actually think is the best version of the sculpture palette, if you have missed out the last few years, get that palette. By all means, that's very much well worth the money, and it's the best of the best. It's fucking great. It's beautiful. However, if you own it, don't fucking waste your time. Don't get it. It's the same fucking palette. They're just releasing it to you with 2 less shades. Stop it. I kind of hope in the future that this brand steers away from these bigger palettes and actually gets some of the smaller palettes. And by getting some of the smaller palettes, perhaps they can actually have a variety of different tones. Oh my God, I know. Who am I? Who am I to suggest such wizardry? I don't know. I think it would actually be beneficial for them if they had the smaller palettes and they kind of release it more towards like, hey, this is going to work for someone that's light to medium. This is one's going to work for someone that is medium to deep. So my only hope is that they will listen to that feedback that people have been literally yelling about them on every fucking social media front, that they need to start being a little bit more inclusive and start thinking about, you know, other people. So who knows, maybe next year they'll listen to their customers. Or not. My money's on not. Maybe I'll eat my fucking words. I don't think the bigger palette's worth it. If you really want the smaller one, get the smaller one. Only if you do not have that original palette. Now the last luxury item we have is the Natasha Denona.
I need a nude glow highlighter. Ooh.
So Natasha Denona actually has quite a few holiday releases this year, and I only picked up this highlighter and I didn't pick up the Zendo palette because I want to stay away from Natasha's reds because those are the fucking shades that usually murder my face. I didn't want to fuck with that. I didn't want to spend $25 to have an eye irritation. I wasn't feeling it, sorry. But I have heard through the grapevine that the palette's really lovely and beautiful and whatever, and I really do love the $25 palettes. I think they're so fucking awesome. So if you have ever been interested in trying the brand, I recommend starting with the $25 palettes and then kind of working your way up because the quality kind of dips in and out some of the palettes. With that said, there has been another release of a palette that this is literally me and a fucking palette, bitch. I fucking can't wait to have it. It's disgustingly me, and yes, I'm gonna buy it, but obviously that's not until November, so you'll definitely see a review of that in the future. But just know, I see this, I see all y'all tagging me in this. This bitch is mine. I love you. All right, I really hope to God it fucking works, because if I have to return that, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry. So this highlighter retails for $42 and it's marketed as a universal highlighter. I think this one is perfect for those that border on the light medium spectrum. If you're fair like me, this can be a touch too dark at times. And that all depends on what you have on your face. The highlighter is like a very warm champagne color. And like I mentioned, depending on the foundation, the blush, the bronzer, or what have you, it can look a smidge too dark. So if you look like me, which fucking God help you, I'm sorry in advance, but proceed with caution. The formula is a very nice gel powder formula. It's very, very easy to work with, and it was very easy applying it to the face. I also felt like, you know, even when rubbing my brush into the pan, it didn't really pick up too much product, and I think it's because that highlighter is that gel formula. It's very stiff in the pan, but I can assure you it's actually quite smooth when applying to the face. But don't worry if you have like a fluffier brush, you're not going to have like excess blowing out everywhere. The product sticks to the brush very well. There's no kick up, no fallout, no nothing. This highlighter didn't emphasize any texture on my face. It glided very beautifully, and it also melded very well with blush, bronzer, foundation, what have you. Everything just melded together perfectly. The longevity was okay, and I think because this is not I don't know, it's not like such a super shiny kind of a highlight. I found that by like hour 6 or 7, it started to like fade pretty noticeably, which was a little disappointing because I have other Natasha Denona highlighters that I never experienced that with. So I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. This is not an alien slut. By the way, I know it looks pretty slutty on camera. I will say that the light is picking it up perfectly, but in person, it's not as severe. And I also went in like 10 fucking times because I just wanted to build this shit up because I have unrealistic expectations when it comes to a highlighter. I tried my hardest to give me the appearance of food poisoning or the meat sweats, and I cannot do this with this highlighter. Very disappointing. I want my highlighter to demand attention, or as I lovingly like to say over and over again, take me to your leader so I can fuck him. Like, that's the highlighter I want. I want like a powerful bitch highlighter. This ain't it, sis. This is demure. It's pretty, but it's 2020. Go big or fucking go home, all right? For $42, I want it to be fucking earth-shattering. I also don't really find it that unique enough to be in my collection. This color is kind of standard, and I'm pretty sure we all have this type of color in our collections currently. So if you're somebody that has a lot of highlighters already, there's a very big chance you already own this. And if you do not have a lot of highlighters, I don't recommend blowing your load on something like this. I just don't think it's worth it. For example, if you really want a high-end highlighter, all right, like you really want a high-end highlighter, nothing matches like Burberry, for example, or even the Hourglass Trio. Those are fucking worth their money. They're expensive, but they're worth every fucking penny. This, nah, not so much. Again, it's very nice, but it's not $42 nice. I don't even think it's 20% off nice. I totally think you could fucking skip out on it. And with that said, those are some of my thoughts on the luxury high-end releases. Let me know down below how you feel about these products, if you love them, if you hate them, if you were just, you know, waiting for a sale and now you're like, I'm gonna save my money and go buy something else. Let me know down below because I love hearing from y'all. And on that note, I wanna say thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it as always. Feel free to like, comment, hit that subscribe button, it's free, and hit that bell icon for notification of all my future posts. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Patreon. To all my beautiful, lovely patron bubbies, I love your adorable, adorable, teeny tiny, holiday-esque faces. I love them so very much, and thank you so much for always being super nice, super kind, and again, like I always say, keeping this disgusting garbage boat afloat, and I couldn't do this without you, so thank you. If you want to know where to get my merch, which by the way, I do have some Halloween merch that will be available until November 1st. So if you want to pick that up, everything will be listed in the description box below, along with what is currently on my face. And with that said, please register to vote. Please wear a mask and wash your hands. Just be a good person. That's all I want for Christmas, y'all. Just be a good person, okay? And I'll see you little pumpkins later. Bye.